Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Evan Watallison. It's our pleasure to come to you this evening. Before we get started, Evan, I just got to again give a shout out to Cass on the website that we are now going to affiliate and publish our show with. And it is, again, just our honor to be able to come to everybody tonight. And again, her website is yourdailycowboysfootballfix.com, publishing our ramble on her website. I know, Evan, you had a chance to get on the site today. I want to give a shout out to also a fellow named California who has actually listened to a couple of our episodes, has given us great feedback, and I love the interaction. And we're getting some interaction on Facebook, and I know you'll attest to it also. We love the fan interaction. We love to be able to talk about our show, what you guys think. Whether you disagree or agree with us, we love to discuss football. Evan and I love to comment on Facebook, now on the website. It is a great thing. So again, thanks to Cass. Got to give her a shout out. If you want to follow her on Twitter, her handle is @CowgirlCass22. I suggest you go follow her. But with that said, Evan, you and I, and actually you brought this up today in a DM, we're starting to hear the rumblings about how we should end this season. And I'm going to turn it over to you because you're the one that brought it up to me. And I heard the same type rumbling across the country out here in Steeler Nation this morning when I was coming to work. So share with the listeners what our topic is going to be tonight, and also give them the fair warning of what's going to happen in this ramble.
Well, I was on my way to work as well this morning listening to the station that I always listen to in the morning, station that I work with, intern with, 1250 WSSP Milwaukee on the morning show. They started talking about should the Packers tank the remainder of the season, allow Rodgers to just sit out the rest of the year and try to get a better draft pick and then go at it again next year because they don't feel they're going to be able to keep, even play with the Saints, Panthers, 49ers, and Seahawks. And that just got my coals burning a little bit right there. So I guess the warning to the listeners would be is you're going to hear me, you're going to hear the first E-Dubs rant on the Ramble. So that'd be the first warning. And it just pissed me off hearing it because it's like, why even bring this up? Why? You're a game out of first place. You're play the Lions in a couple weeks. You possibly could have Rodgers back, if not for that game, for the game after. You have the Vikings coming up this week. Should be a win with or without Rodgers. Vikings are horrible. Why even bring up tanking rather than going for the playoffs? I just don't get it whatsoever. I really don't at all. And I don't know what if you want to share your take on it too. It just really, burning my coals a little bit.
After the day I had, you're going to bring this topic up to me. And I think you know how I feel about this. And I'm going to start by saying this. Those fans that want to be so critical and say that we should tank a season to get a better draft pick, or that we're not going to have any chance in the playoffs. I've shared this on a number of rambles, and like you, it gets under my skin. It makes my skin crawl to even think about that. Because if you're starting to think like that now, I'm going to say this one more time, and you're probably sick of hearing it. But if you're going to talk like that, when they start doing well, after they beat the Vikings and the NFC rolls into our favor and all of a sudden we're in first place, I want you to keep your hands under your butt and not cheer. Because I don't think you deserve to if you're saying we should tank the season right now. So I'm with you, Evan. Right now, this is going to be a ramble that's going to be informative, but you guys are going to hear some passionate reasons why Evan and I totally disagree about tanking a season. You made a really good point, Evan. One game out of first place. How can you say at this point in the season that we should tank it when we're right there on the cusp of winning a division? We don't know what's going to roll out. This is the NFL. And from week to week, you better put your pads on. You better strap your chin strap on, because those guys are going out to hit. And they're going to play very hard every week. And what's to say that the Saints don't lose the rest of their games? What's to say the Seahawks don't stumble a little bit? We don't know what's going to happen. And so why are we saying we're going to tank the season? I'm going to turn it over to you, because you know where I'm going to go with this about when we should bring Rodgers back. But I want you to give the take on this. We're looking at it from that standpoint. We don't know when Rodgers is going to come back. So let's talk about bringing Rodgers back. Let's not talk about tanking. Talk about the thoughts that you think about having Rodgers come back, and then we see what's going to go on.
Yeah, well, regarding Rodgers, obviously I'm not a doctor. I haven't seen his x-ray, and I know you haven't either, and you're not a doctor as well. We just play one on TV and all. But and to be serious now, the talk around the Milwaukee market, there's a lot of people thinking that he is possibly, which I don't think he will be, but he's possibly going to be back on Thanksgiving for the Lions. A lot of people are thinking that he's going to play that game. From what I've heard, he's very close to being ready, and he was saying that if he can, he needs to be able to full go practice 2 days prior to a game in order to be ready to play. And we should be finding out, I guess, coming up Friday or on Monday or Tuesday of next week. If he's full go at practice, then we should expect to see him play. But, like you were saying, we're a game out of first. Anything can happen in the NFL. When Rodgers comes back, with Rodgers in the lineup at 100%, even at 90%, there's not really a team left on the schedule that we shouldn't be able to beat, or the Packers shouldn't be able to beat. The Falcons are not a good football team this year. The Vikings are horrible. The Lions are the Lions. Cowboys are very up and down. Also have a defense that's 32nd in the league. That should be a shootout. The Bears are on the schedule. There's not a game left on the schedule that if Rodgers is in there, the Packers shouldn't win. So if Rodgers can come back by the Falcons game, Packers should be fine. I know you have a different time. I think you have a different timetable on when he could be back. If you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I have a different timetable, but I also want to throw something else in here. Why are people giving up on Tolzien? Why they think we can't win with Tolzien in the lineup? I mean, from what I've seen, give the guy a break, because I'm not blaming the whole game last Sunday on Tolzien. Yes, he made some mistakes, but we have to realize nobody's ever going to play at the level that Rodgers plays at. And so while we're in this little bit of riding the storm out, we got the Vikings. And who's to say that if Rodgers does not play on Thanksgiving, that Tolzien now will have what? It'll be his third start? Who's to say that we don't game plan and maybe McCarthy listened to our ramble, Evan, and starts rolling him out of the pocket and starts hitting Corliss or Nelson on that slant, and he has a great game and we beat the Lions with Tolzien. I guarantee at that point, these fans that you heard today are going to say, oh, we're right back in the race. We're right back in the race. And to me, that is...
We don't know what they can do.
It's embarrassing to me that fans will do that, because they're writing off Tolzien when I think the guy's got some talent. He's never going to be an elite quarterback in this league. We know that. But I think he can win. You and I talked about it on the recap. Yes, he made some mistakes. We've got to live with it. He's just not Rodgers. Nobody's Rodgers. But he can go out and he can play. It's defensively, we've got to step up defensively. If we look back at the game, we had the chance. We did make the stop. Got it 2013. He made the mistake. But after we gave the ball back again, the Giants went on the long run. They ran the time off the clock, didn't even give us a chance to get the ball back. So there's where part of my frustration comes in. Not only the Rodgers thing, but the Tolzien. Why are we giving up on him? Let's give Go ahead.
I was saying here's a couple of concerns with Tolzien, and I can see it, and he knows he's got to do better. But the concerns are the interceptions. He's got to cut those down, and he knows that. And the other concern is he isn't the best when it comes to the short intermediate routes. That's not his. He isn't that good at that, and he needs some work. And his footwork isn't the best, but with work, that could be better. He needs to continue to work and put in the work that he is, and Tolzien should be able to beat the Vikings. And if Tolzien has to play against Detroit, if the rest of the team comes to play, I think Tolzien could, if he keeps the turnovers down, I think he could put up a game against the Lions.
He could.
I'm not ready to say Tolzien can't win us a game because I think he can.
Yeah, and that's where the frustration comes in. So back to the original point. Like we warned the listeners, this is just a ranting ramble. Evan and I, for those that are listening in for the first time and are new, and I'm going to call him a friend, California on the website. I'm going to call him a friend because he's been commenting on our show. When I look at this, the timetable for Rodgers, I'm looking at it from the initial assessment of a broken collarbone, which is usually 6 to 8 weeks. And so I'm not saying I don't think he can't come back for Detroit, but like you said, the guy's got to practice. The guy wants to be 100%. If he's not in at 100%, he's got to look at the longevity of what could happen. Is there any concern for a long lingering effect from injuring that? But I absolutely agree. He has to be 100%. So personally, from having injuries as an athlete, I'm thinking it's going to be more of the 4 to 6 week type thing. I don't think he's playing against the Vikings. We know he's not playing against the Vikings. I don't think he's playing against the Lions. So with that said, when we're looking at whether or not we should tank the season, which I think is totally absurd, let's say, just going out there hypothetically, that he's out for 4 more weeks, and we lose all 4 of the games, and we're 5-9 at that point. Now I'm okay with resting Rodgers because there's nothing left to play for. I mean, if we won the 2 and went 7-9, big deal. At that point, though, I'm not saying to tank the season. What I'm saying at that point is rest Rodgers so he doesn't risk injury in games that don't matter for the playoffs. But up until that point, I don't think you ever lose hope in saying, let's keep playing to win. So I don't care about the draft pick, and I don't care about all this stuff. Because to be honest, I like what the Packers do in the draft, Evan. I don't care if we're drafting 32nd. I don't care if we're drafting 5th. We do good in the later rounds anyway. And I don't know what your take is on that, tanking the season for a draft pick. But from my perspective, it doesn't mean anything to me as a fan right now. I want us to go out and compete, to be able to have a chance to win. But if Rodgers is healthy and we are no longer in the playoff race, then it's really a call. I would say at that point, that's when we rest him, but not up until that point. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense, but I don't necessarily agree with it. I get what you're saying and all, but I don't think it does the team any good sitting him out the last couple games if we're sitting at 5-9 when he's finally come back. I don't think I don't agree with that. As you and I were talking pre-show, you it's a pride thing, and he gives them the best chance to win, and it gives them going out of the season on a high note. But I don't think he's going to be out for another 4 weeks. I think he's going to be out, for another 2 at the most. And I think he's back for Atlanta. And the thing is, trying to tank for a draft pick, the draft itself is a crapshoot. There's more bust in the draft most of the time than there's success. Yeah, you look at the Packers a couple years ago, they draft Justin Harrell. What happened there? Didn't work out. Keely Smith was drafted top 3 back in, I think, 99. He didn't pan out. Jamarcus Russell didn't pan out. So if you're trying to tank for a better draft pick, they're not guaranteed. A.J. Hawk was a 5th-round draft, a fifth pick in the entire NFL draft. And he, according to a lot of people, has really disappointed as a top 5 pick. So the draft itself is a crapshoot. And the people that are saying that, well, we don't stand a chance against the Saints, the 49ers, the Seahawks, or the Panthers anyway, so why not bother? The same things were said in 2010 when the Packers played the Bears in Week 17 in Chicago. Then they played the Philadelphia Eagles in the first round in Philadelphia. Then they went to Atlanta. Then they went back to Chicago. People were not giving them a chance at all. And then they went to the Super Bowl against the Steelers where nobody was giving them a shot. But, anything can happen come playoff time. No one thought the Seahawks, when they finished 7-9 and made the playoffs as division champion, were going to beat the Saints. But they did. Anything can happen in the playoffs. So if you figure let's tank for a draft pick, anything happen in the draft, it's a crapshoot. If you say let's tank because we don't stand a chance against one of those 4 teams, anything can happen. Drew Brees can have a bad day. Cam Newton's never started a playoff game before in his life. The Seahawks have been very up and down, even if they have, one loss on the season. They almost lost to the Buccaneers a couple weeks ago. They were down 21-0 in the game. The Vikings kind of hung around for about a quarter and a half against the Seahawks. The 49ers have not been very good lately. Anything can happen come playoff time. If the Packers, only a game out of the division right now, are able to win that division, let's go for it. Because the other reason is, my third reason on why I think it's absolutely stupid is the window of opportunity in the NFL can close very quickly. Last year, the Vikings were a playoff team. Look at them now. The Steelers, perennial playoff team throughout the 2000s. Look at them now. The Giants, they've won 4 straight, but up to that point, they were 0-6?
0-6.
Perennial playoff team. They won the Super Bowl twice, and they don't look that great even if they've won 4 in a row. And the 2 years the Giants won the Super Bowl, no one thought the Giants stood a chance. But, they went to, and this still pains me, Lambeau Field in the NFC Championship game. Most people were penciling in the Packers in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Guess what? The Giants won. When the Packers finished 15-1, the Giants came to Lambeau Field. Most people were penciling the Packers into the NFC Championship game, and the Giants won it and won. So anything can happen in the NFL, and the window of opportunity can close in a hurry, and the draft is a crapshoot. So anyone saying, let's tank for a draft pick or let's tank because we can't beat these teams, I find that very dumb.
Yeah, I call it absurd. And that's why I said earlier, if you're going to say it now, don't cheer when the Packers are in the playoffs. I still think, and I know hypothetically when we did our if the season ended today thing, but we did that thinking, we did that pick saying, hey, there's no Rodgers. Base it on the roster today. You and I both know Rodgers is going to come back. And
he's a competitor. He's going to try to come back before people think he should. He's a competitor. That's who he is. He's always been a competitor.
And
he has a huge chip on his shoulder, and he wants to prove people wrong.
And he's always going to have that. And I am totally on your side. I love your optimism. I hope he's back for Atlanta. I really do hope he is back, because you got to remember the other person they're not talking about. Randall Cobb is going to come back from that broken leg. Now, granted, the conditioning is probably not there, but I don't care. Randall Cobb, another weapon on the field, even if he's not at full speed, he still knows how to run routes. He's another weapon. Now you've got Aaron Rodgers, Randall Cobb back. You got Jordy Nelson back into his natural position. You got James Jones. You got a running game that can be with the best of them in the NFL.
Boykin.
And you got Boykin, who's coming on strong. We've got the weapons. So how can you even think at this time in the season to say, let's tank it? It is totally absurd to me. And I'm going to say another thing. Being a former athlete, being a former college soccer coach, Players play for pride, Evan. I've been on this end of it. As a player, as a coach, I was telling you in the pre-chat, a freshman in college, I redshirted. Senior laden team, 7 starters on that team, missed the NCAA playoffs by 1 game. How do you think we did the next year when we had to revamp and start a lot of young players? I was a redshirt freshman starting along with 6 other freshmen and sophomores. How do you think we did that year?
Guessing not as well as the year before.
No, not even close. I believe the record is, I'd have to go look it up. It's been so long ago. But we were like 5-14-1. And I think we started the season off with 5 straight losses. We could have just very easily said, well, this season sucks. Let's just lose. No. Even when we were 5-13, we went out and played because athletes play with pride. And you can't tell me that a guy in the NFL, I'll even go down this road. Somebody that's on the Buccaneers right now, somebody that's on the Jaguars right now, these teams have no chance to get back in the playoff race. Do you think they're not playing every week as hard as they can?
Look at the Jaguars, the Buccaneers the last couple of weeks. They just killed the Falcons and they beat the Dolphins. They're fighting every week, and that's why I don't think Detroit's going to have an easy win come Sunday, because they play the Buccaneers coming up. You know, that's the reason right there. If Detroit loses to the Buccaneers, which is totally possible, and the Packers win, boom, like you said, they're back in first place.
Yeah, and
they hold the tiebreaker against the Lions.
And on the coaching side, do you think the coach has given up? Yeah, let's give up. I don't feel like coaching anymore. Let's tank it and regroup for next year. That's crazy talk. Just totally crazy. Especially
this is not the NBA. Come on now.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not. We're not trying to get a lottery pick. We're not trying where,
We don't have Wiggins in this coming NFL draft and Jabari Parker. They're not in the NBA in the NFL draft. They're in the NBA draft.
Yeah, I mean, well, we can go on that. I mean, this is our ramble. The NBA is a totally different draft. You have to be in the top 10 to get a good player. I mean, They only have 2 rounds. I mean, they don't even give guaranteed money to the second-round draft picks. But again, like you said, the draft is such a crapshoot. And, I'll go back and touch on it. A.J. Hawk, 5th overall pick. Has he lived up to a 5th overall pick?
Nope.
No, he has not. Has he been a solid player for the Packers? Yeah,
For the most part.
I would say he has been. But you had a list of players, and you and I could probably sit here for another 2 hours and talk about all of the first-round draft picks that have been bust. And that is why those fans that think that the first round of the NFL draft is the hear-all, say-all, saving grace, they need to go back and they need to take a look at where have the superstars come from in the NFL. It comes from those players. Look at the Terrell Davis. What round was he drafted in?
7th or 6th.
6th or 7th round. You don't have to have a high draft pick to get good players. And so, again, I'll say the word one more time. Absurd to think that we should tank the season for a draft pick. It's ridiculous. Because even, you mentioned it, Jamarcus Russell, first round draft, number 1 pick, right?
Yeah.
What did he do, and where is he today?
What did he do? He busted out, and what's he doing today? Who knows? I know he's trying to make an NFL comeback, but I couldn't even tell you what he's up to today. I know what he's not doing today. I know he's not one of the 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I know he's also not one of the backups in the NFL. So he's no longer in the NFL.
He's not even on anybody. He's not even on anybody's list to sign as a free agent as an emergency quarterback. I mean, and that's the number 1 overall draft pick. So again, our point, and I'm going to apologize to the fans for the rant. We say it over and over. You're not tanking the season, people, especially if you're a Packer fan, because there is so much upside. Because let's look at Evan's optimism. He comes back for Atlanta, and let's say, for the sake of argument, we should win the game on Sunday against the Vikings, Evan. Now, we may not. We could be 5-6.
Yeah, and we'll be previewing that game tomorrow, I believe.
Yes, we're going to be previewing it tomorrow. And with that said, I probably gave away where I'm going with that. But the Lions game, again, that is 2 weeks away. I'm not worried about the outcome of the Lions game today. I am worried about the Packers preparing for Sunday against the Vikings. And that team is probably not looking ahead, knowing where they're at in the standings. They need to win the divisional game on Sunday against the Vikings to put themselves in a position to make a run at the playoffs. And when they win on Sunday, they're going to be 6-5. Now we start talking about the timetable for the Rodgers return is a lot closer than it is today, isn't it?
Yep.
And so we have to take a look at this 1 week at a time and take it from there. I know you and I disagree on the whole playing thing with the Rodgers and if they're out of the playoffs, but that's neither here nor there. That's not the important thing right now. The important thing is we've got a game on Sunday that is very, very important. And if we lose, it doesn't eliminate us from the playoffs. Now, it makes our road to the playoffs a lot harder, but we're not even eliminated if we lose on Sunday. And
so until we're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, you got to be fighting for the playoffs week in and week out. That's just, that's my opinion on it.
No, I agree with you 100%, buddy. I mean,
don't take the suck for luck year that the Colts had when Manning sat out.
Yeah,
that, to me is I hated that.
Oh, that's a different ramble. That would be, and you and I can touch on that near the end of the season. I totally disagree. You play your players. I mean, I'm going to go back to when we were 15-1 and we started Matt Flynn and he made all his money. I look back on that. You sat your starters in that last game. Then we had a bye. And granted, the New York Giants got on a roll, came into Lambeau, rolled through the playoffs, exactly what we're talking about today. Who knows if we can't get on a hot streak. But I looked at it from this point. That game against the Giants, we were not sharp at all. Those starters had not played a football game in 3 weeks. 3 weeks that they did not play a game and did not get hit. The timing was off. The tackling was bad. It looked like the intensity level was low. And by the time they got their legs underneath them, we were reeling and we had to try to come back and we couldn't do it. So, again, I don't agree with resting players either. So, moving forward, we're both in agreement that this tanking the season is something that should just be put totally over in left field. It should be covered up with piles of dirt, and nobody should even be talking that way. So, moving forward, Evan, when we look at this season, let's look at it realistically. And from the standpoint of getting hot, you and I talked about it in the pre-chat. When Rodgers comes back, we could definitely get on a roll and be that team. Give me one reason right now, Evan, why we couldn't be that team, getting our quarterback back, make the playoffs as the 6th seed and win the Super Bowl. Give me one reason why it couldn't happen.
The only reason I could possibly see is that when Rodgers comes back, he's not the Rodgers that we all know, and he's not the sharpest. That's the only reason why I can see. But Rodgers in that lineup gives the Packers a great shot to beat every team left on their schedule when he's anticipated to come back. From the Falcon game on, Packers should be favored with Rodgers. So unless he's completely dreadful those first game or two back, that's the only reason why I see that it couldn't be the Packers.
Well, let me add this. Even if he is dreadful and his timing is off, is a Rodgers bad day better than a Tolzien good day?
Yeah, a Rodgers bad day is better than a Tolzien good day, but a Rodgers bad day, as we've seen in the past, isn't going to overcome what we've seen with the defense lately.
Yeah, I agree there. I just had to throw that out. I mean, that's the thinking that you have to have as a fan, is that there is a lot to hope for. And it's just, again, I have to apologize. My thought process today and my talking today is probably not in sync, and I probably sound like a crazy guy. Normally, I'm just an idiot with an opinion. Today, I'm a crazy guy with an opinion, which makes me even worse today. But I just, again, like you, it just irks me, and it really gets me heated when I start hearing that talk. So let's do this, Evan. I know we're getting a lot of loyal listeners. We've got a new listening base on the website that we're now going to publish our shows on with Cass. But let's post a question so we can interact with our fans. The fans that are listening, what is your take on this? How do you feel about your team, whether or not you're a Packer fan? I don't care what team. If you're a Cowboys fan, feel free to chime in. How do you feel about the notion that your team should tank the season to get a better draft pick? I'd love to hear these comments, Evan, and we'll try to keep up if we can. I know you and I, we do have full-time jobs other than the Light Sports Ramble. We try to get on social media. We try to be interactive and get to these comments as quick as we can. But I think it'll be fun to hear what other people think about this topic. What do you think?
I think it could be very fun. I encourage it to either, comment on the Your Daily Cowboys FootballFix.com website. Comment on there. Comment on Facebook. Comment on Twitter. Email us. It was at redlightsportsramble@gmail.com.
That is it.
Just an email. Interact with us, and like you said, we'll do our best to interact back. We want your opinion. You can be a fan of the Cowboys. You can be a fan of the Seahawks. You can be a fan of the Vikings. And if you are, we'll forgive you for that.
We
just want your opinion on what you feel about that.
Yeah, we'll still comment back to the Vikings fans. We'll still be cordial.
Yeah.
But with that said, Evan, I think in wrapping up here tonight, and I know before we wrap up, you're going to give some thanks. But to wrap up, the bottom line is we're both in agreement. There is no talk about tanking a season. There should never be any talk about tanking a season. I don't care what your record is. It is just crazy talk to think about tanking a season for a better draft pick. With that said, Bud, I'm going to let you wrap it up. Again, I appreciate you co-hosting with me. It's always a great pleasure of mine.
Well, I just want to say thank you once again to Cass and her website, YourDailyCowboysFix.com. Thank that site, and thanks for all the listener and fans that we have. It's you're the reason why we do this. We love talking sports, but knowing we have a fan base that cares about what we say makes it even more fun than it already is. So keep listening, keep interacting, and for those that have given topic suggestions, we haven't forgot about them. We just, this topic I heard today, and you had said you heard out in Pittsburgh today with the people thinking the Steelers should do the same, and it's just something that I felt we had to talk about. But keep the questions coming, keep the topics coming, and we'll get to you, I promise.
Sounds good, Bud. And for all our listeners, we'll see you at the next red light. We'll get at you later. Have a good one.